Welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're taking the core learning outcomes and key terms of childhood development and translating them into clear, actionable insights. So whether you're an educator, a caregiver, or just someone fascinated by the human mind, we've got a fantastic lesson for you today on how our brains actually grow from childhood right through adolescence. Let's get to it.
But before we really jump in, I want you to consider this essential question. How exactly do young minds transition from basic, what you see is what you get observation to complex, logical reasoning? And more importantly, what is our specific role in nurturing that progress? Because we're not just bystanders watching them grow, right? We are active participants in their cognitive journey. Keep that in the back of your mind as we go through today's material. Here's our lesson plan for today. We're breaking this down into 4 main areas. First, the biology of learning. Second, the frameworks of intelligence. Third, what children actually learn. And finally, meeting their intellectual needs.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the biology of learning.
Let's start right at the front of the brain with the prefrontal cortex. During the school age and adolescent years, there is some incredible wiring and pruning happening up there. The wiring builds up higher cognitive functions, while the pruning, it cuts away unused pathways to make thinking much faster and way more efficient. This specific area is absolutely vital for logical thinking, forming judgments, weighing consequences, making decisions, and, as literally any parent of a teenager knows, controlling impulses and emotions.
A really critical concept here, and a key term for our lesson, is metacognition. But simply, this is a person's awareness of their own knowledge. It's thinking about thinking. This higher-level self-awareness really kicks in as the brain reorganizes during puberty. But as the brain loses some of its earlier childhood plasticity, you'll also notice teens start to kind of narrow their interests, focusing super deeply on what they excel at or care about the most.
Moving on to Section 2, frameworks of intelligence. Let's compare Jean Piaget's famous stages of cognitive development. On one side, we have the concrete operational stage, covering ages 7 to 11. Kids here are starting to think logically, but that logic relies heavily on concrete past experiences. Then, on the flip side, we have the formal operational stage, kicking in around age 12 to 14 and going into adulthood. This is a total game changer. It's where abstract thinking, scientific reasoning, and complex strategy planning really take the wheel.
To truly master logical thought in Piaget's framework, kids have to grasp a key term called conservation. That's the understanding that changing an object's physical shape, its direction, or its position absolutely does not change its underlying quantity. Think of it like this. If a kid watches you pour water from a short, wide glass into a tall, skinny one, a kid who understands conservation knows it's the exact same amount of water, even though it looks totally different. Now, check out the contrast in the advanced reasoning tools they pick up as they hit that formal operational stage. We see deductive reasoning emerge. That's taking a broad, general rule and drilling down to a specific conclusion. And then we have inductive reasoning, which is the complete opposite. It's taking specific facts and observations and building them up to form a big, overarching conclusion. So, Lev Vygotsky took a slightly different angle with his sociocultural theory. He argued that intellectual development hinges on what he called the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Basically, this is the sweet spot between what a child can do totally on their own and what they just plain can't do yet. Vygotsky believed kids learn best when adults or peers stretch their minds right within this zone, offering just enough guidance to help them master a new skill.
And then, Howard Gardner expanded the whole framework by proposing multiple intelligences. He showed that, hey, intelligence isn't just about acing a math test. It's a huge spectrum. We're talking bodily and kinesthetic skills, visual and spatial awareness, musical rhythm, naturalist abilities, and even interpersonal skills, like how well you deal with others, and intrapersonal skills, which is how well you understand yourself. Recognizing this whole shebang really helps educators engage kids across all kinds of diverse talents.
All right, Section 3, what children actually learn.
Beyond figuring out the physical world, like knowing a ball falls when you drop it, children have to absorb culture-specific knowledge. That's another vital key term for our lesson today. It refers to culturally relevant stuff that a kid can't just figure out by playing in the dirt. They have to be explicitly told or shown by society. We're talking about mastering the specific grammar of their native language, learning their local history, or understanding their culture's art and literature.
Because of that, a huge milestone in communication isn't just learning bigger words, it's learning how to code switch. This is when they figure out how to effortlessly adapt their grammar and vocabulary depending on exactly who they're talking to. Just think about how a 14-year-old talks to their best friend versus how they speak to their school principal. That ability to seamlessly shift language rules, that's a highly sophisticated intellectual milestone.
Let's look at how these milestones build up over time. It's actually really cool to see. A 6 to 7-year-old's pure eagerness to learn beautifully evolves into an 8-year-old's ability to memorize huge chunks of detailed info. By 10 to 12, they're not just repeating facts, they can actually paraphrase and summarize. Hitting 13 to 15, they start intensely questioning absolutely everything. And then, by 16 to 18, they hit this massive milestone, the ability to sit and sustain focused attention for about 32 to 48 minutes straight.
Finally, we reach Section 4, meeting their intellectual needs. A huge chunk of a child's intellectual needs are met at school, for sure, but the family's role behind the scenes is absolutely crucial. The biggest upheavals usually happen when a kid first enters primary school, and then again when they hit middle school. As adults, we've got to make those transitions positive. At home, you can support them by reinforcing school tasks, actively building up their executive functions like organization and time management, and literally being their biggest advocate within the school system.
Outside the classroom, you really want to provide enrichment activities. Things outside standard academics, like ballet classes, after-school clubs, music lessons, you name it. This gives kids the chance to find their unique passions and tap into those multiple intelligences we talked about earlier. But of course, the adults have to weigh the practical stuff. Does this actually fit the kid's personality? Does it work with the family schedule? Is the cost manageable? And most importantly, is it a safe environment?
Now, a massive modern challenge is guiding their electronic media use and protecting them from online risks. Honestly, this takes a super structured, proactive approach. You really can't be passive here. You've got to establish clear guidelines from day one, set and actually enforce the rules, constantly supervise their use of internet-enabled devices, and definitely use filtering programs and parental controls. It is a critical, non-negotiable layer of protection for a developing brain.
As we wrap up this explainer and close out today's lesson, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take back to your home or classroom. Children learn by watching us, so take a hard look at your own habits. What steps are you going to take today to model healthy digital device usage, and how will you actively supervise the security controls for the next generation? Thanks so much for joining me to explore the amazing intellectual development of kids and teens. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.